The UK government is promising the most radical overhaul of the welfare state since its inception. It's claimed the reform programme will benefit all those who play by the rules. But a report out today warns that a clampdown on incapacity benefits will impoverish vast numbers of people in some of our most disadvantaged communities. Here's Scotland Tonight's David Marsland.
More than 1 in 10 of Glasgow's working age population is claiming incapacity benefit. That's one of the highest rates anywhere in the United Kingdom. Across Britain, 2.5 million people are picking up the subsidy. Do they really all need it?
The government doesn't think so.
Total welfare spending has increased from £132 billion 10 years ago to £192 billion today, and it's one of the reasons why there is no money left.
Last year, the Chancellor announced reforms to the system that make it harder to qualify.
We are wasting the talents of millions and spending billions on it in the process.
Today, researchers at Sheffield Hallam University produced the first independent study of those reforms. They say 1 million will fail the tough new means testing, including up to 115,000 Scots.
And of that 1 million, around 600,000 will be pushed right out of the benefit system altogether. And this adds up to being probably the biggest single change in the benefit system that we've had for at least a generation.
Some of those pushed off will get job seekers allowance. The government says it's based on what people can, not can't do. But that's worth less, and claimants will be expected to find employment. Terry Wilson used to have 2 jobs, but the onset of osteoarthritis put pay to that. He gets £44 a fortnight through incapacity benefit, but with sufferers of conditions including Parkinson's and multiple sclerosis getting past fit to work, Terry is worried he'll lose out because others abuse the system.
I could take you down the street now and I could show you people who have never worked a day in their life, and they're standing outside pubs. Some have got walking sticks, crutches, smoking away. The furthest they walk's from the pub to the bookies. But if they just look at my work record, you know, they'll find, you know, I did voluntary work with kids as well. You know, I've been busy all my life. I don't want to be like this. You know, I've nothing better than get up every morning and go out and work somewhere.
The government says incapacity benefit wrote off too many people who could be helped back to work. But they'll also save £12 billion, prompting some to question what the reforms are really about.
David Marsland there. Well, we're now joined from Edinburgh by Richard Hamer of Capability Scotland, and in London is the political commentator Ian Martin, who writes for the Daily Mail. Richard, there are few things that wind people up more than the perception, at least, that people are taking benefits unfairly.
Definitely, but I think what we see from the government's own figures are that the rate of fraud in relation to incapacity benefit, for example, is at 1%, and that's significantly less than most other benefits claimed by non-disabled people. So it's simply not true that disabled people are scrounging, as seems to be the case in the media.
Ian Martin, looking at it from a different perspective, is it not the case that this is the wrong target, that in fact the government should be going for the billions secured away in tax havens by the country's wealthy?
Well, that's a slightly separate question, but I think this goes back a long way.
But it's connected, is it not?
It's connected, but this is a scandal that goes back right to the 1980s. This started under the Tories, and successive governments used incapacity benefit to hide the unemployed. There are now 2.6 million Britons on incapacity benefit. Now that's a number equivalent to the populations of Birmingham, Liverpool, Glasgow and Edinburgh combined. It is inconceivable that 9.5% of the Scottish working age population are unfit for work. There are people within that that are going to have to work.
But there are people within that who doctors have said that they're not fit to work. And we've heard from charities, Arthritis Care, for example, and we've heard other examples, various people who just, their conditions fluctuate, they can't work. And surely we have to support that.
And of course there should be a safety net in the system, and the government isn't talking about removing everyone from the new equivalent of incapacity benefits. 1.6 million people will remain on an equivalent benefit, but it's absolutely clear that the money has run out, and that this is a problem that really needs tackling.
Richard, we have among the highest number of claimants, or certainly ratio of claimants in the Western world. Why should that be? Does that not suggest that people are abusing the system?
Unfortunately, Scotland has a higher proportion of disabled people than the rest of the UK, and particularly in relation to incapacity benefit and employment support allowance, the industrial nature of our work in Scotland in the past has left us with a large number of people who are no longer fit for work, and that's the unfortunate situation. Simply changing eligibility for benefits, simply cutting the amount of money that we're going to give to people doesn't make people suddenly well, and it doesn't suddenly turn up jobs for them. We're facing a situation where about 100,000 people will be expected to be looking for and going out and finding work in Scotland who are sick or disabled. When we know that employment in Scotland is falling, we know that the public sector that is conventionally provided for disabled people employment are experiencing massive cuts. So it's all very well taking the money away, it's all very well forcing people to attend in job interviews and job training, but if there simply aren't the jobs there, all we're going to do is push people into poverty by taking their benefits away. What
about that point, Ian Martin? The jobs just aren't there.
Well, I think the great moral question in this is the waste of human potential. I think successive governments of all political colours have essentially written off millions of people and parked them in a benefit system which gives them some kind of life, but essentially deprives them of serious opportunity. And I think it is morally questionable to simply just park people there and think that we're somehow doing the best for them by leaving them on benefits. I think amongst that 2.6 million people on incapacity benefit are many people we know from the pilot studies and from the initial work that's been done on the new medicals and testing that 30%, a clear 30% or so, are fit to work and will then move on to types of benefit where they will be given help and encouragement to try and work. That has got to be, and I accept that it's difficult, and it will be difficult for many of those people coming sometimes from communities where worklessness stretches back 2 or 3 generations. But that, the chance to find work and the help to find work, has surely got to be a better life than being parked and forgotten about on benefits for decades.
30% fit to work, Richard Hamer.
I don't think so. I think that what we have is people being labelled as fit to work in order that benefit rates can be cut. But what we don't see is actually those people actually being fit for work.
Arguably, though, they may not be fit for work, but as we heard one of the people in the report saying, you know, they're fit enough to walk down to the bar, they're fit enough to go to the bookies. Why aren't they fit enough to work?
I think the work capability assessment undertaken by a private company earning significant millions of pounds from the UK taxpayer has been shown to not be implementing the work capability assessment properly. 40% of people are appealing against their assessments, 40% of those are succeeding. The process is being dragged down in bureaucracy at a time when the government is then saying it's going to reassess everyone who's receiving incapacity benefit, which even if those reassessments only cost £200 or £300 will cost the public about two-thirds of £1 billion to do. This is not about saving money, this is about penalising disabled people.
But the bottom line is that the money is not there, is it? We're in straitened times and the money is not there. Very briefly.
I think disabled people would really relish the chance to take their share of the cuts we see, but of the £18 billion that the government is trying to save through welfare benefit changes, households including disabled people will take half of that, £9 billion. That's not a fair share.
Ian Martin.
Why should people who work possibly for the minimum wage or not much above it, who get up every morning and go to their work, why should they do that, and that when their neighbours are claiming incapacity benefit when they are actually fit for work? It is morally indefensible.
Ian Martin in London, Richard Hamer in Edinburgh, thanks very much for joining us on Scotland Tonight.